Hello everyone. I'm back. I'm back just right after I finished the game 80 Days. And so now I'm going to be giving my final thoughts on the game as a whole, just like I did with Edith Finch, except this will be a lot more positive review because I actually enjoyed this game unlike What Remains of Edith Finch. Anyways, so first I'm going to start off with surprised me and some of the most dramatic surprises. And so what surprised me, there were just quite a few events that happened that I just was not expecting. So I think that the first thing the first surprise I happened was I think when I was I was like on an expedition to like get to Merv, I think it was, to sell something. And the first surprise that happened was that I was on a military train and it detoured me to the city, or I think it's city of Herat, because they were like, oh, there's nothing in Merv, we're actually going to Herat. And that was my first surprise because I was like, oh, the game can just like do that. It can just go against my wishes. That was a big surprise. My second surprise came when I almost got manipulated into smoking opium in Hong Kong. Second surprise. That was because it was like my genuine reaction too, because there was like this dude that approached me and was like asking like, oh, hey, you want to like get some drinks or something? I was like, sure. And then I go and it's like an opium den. That was kind of crazy. Then there was a mutiny. That was one of the big surprises. I would say that was one of the most dramatic surprises because so we came from a city in Japan and we were going to San Francisco, and there was like a storm, so we had to detour to Honolulu. And then Monsieur Fogg was like, oh, we should stage a mutiny to take control of the ship because like us, I guess, detouring is unacceptable, which I personally think is dumb, but me as my character, I just went along with it because I didn't want to get on his bad side. So I tried to like help stage this mutiny. It failed, and then we got kicked off the ship, and it was just really crazy. And then while we were in Honolulu, Monsieur Fogg's health declined significantly. It was found out that he had contracted cholera in a city that we had gone to in the Philippines, which, granted, I was told I was having a cholera outbreak, but I kind of just I just ignored it for a little bit. I was kind of hoping that we would be fine because he was fine for a while. He was fine for our entire journey to Honolulu, and then he like really went down. I was actually worried that he was going to die. I actually thought he was going to die. I ended up looking it up, and apparently he can die in some circumstances. Usually it's usually if you try and do the expedition up to the North Pole. But I don't think he was actually going to be able to die in this case. And he didn't. So he recovered, but we spent like quite a few days in Honolulu for him to recover. And so then that just kind of set us back. So yeah, that was definitely one of the most dramatic surprises. And so then we get to America. Finally, we get to San Francisco from Honolulu, and we traveled the Transcontinental Railroad, or at least how much there is that was built. It was built up to Burlington, Illinois. Sorry, or was it Birmingham? It was either Birmingham or Burlington, Illinois. I can't remember. I think it might have been Birmingham. So we get there, and then we have to go to New Orleans. And so we get on a steamboat to New Orleans, and another surprise happens where the boiler explodes. There are a lot of mishaps during this journey. I think I did pretty well, though, with like the path we took. I guess it could have been a little more direct, but I kind of got a little money hungry, and so we kind of detoured a little bit here and there just to get to places I could sell stuff in for good prices. But anyways, so the boiler exploded, and so then that set us a few days back from getting to New Orleans. We finally got to New Orleans. Um, and that's kind of where the surprises end. Uh, but yeah, I think I was just really surprised in how like dramatic this game could get with like these very severe like events happening. I just didn't think something like this would have like really happened. I thought that everything would run relatively smooth throughout the journey. I just didn't really even take into consideration like disease and like stage mutiny. Like last thing on my mind. Uh I think what also, but I think the fact that Monsieur Fogg at least can contract diseases and stuff, it was a little surprising that like there weren't other setbacks such as like not having enough food and stuff because not once did we ever have to like it would be told in descriptions that we like got lunch or something, but like we never actually had to physically buy food, which I was kind of surprised about, but maybe they wanted to keep the game a little bit more simplistic in that sense. Uh so what impressed me was just really how in depth the storylines were for each country. Like you could stay in a city for like or country for like days and just keep on like exploring and stuff and just like learn a lot of more information, meet new people. It was very interesting and just the way they describe things very in depth and vividly was really impressive. Um so yeah, and just I don't know, just it was just so well done, especially like the choose your own adventure aspect because there were a lot of instances where you could like choose your different responses and based on those responses like you'd have different outcomes and how like characters would react to you and stuff. And so or like what would happen cuz like for instance with the whole mutiny thing, depending on the people I tried to get on our side, I think would have determined the outcome if it was successful or not. Obviously, I must have not chosen the right people to get on our side because it was not successful. But I don't know. I just think it's just so well detailed. I just really loved the amount of effort put into everything. Like nothing seemed like lazy. Like you never got like a lazy response based on what like you chose to say or do. Uh so yeah, just overall really impressed with that. Uh, there was something that really disappointed me necessarily. The only thing that disappointed me was being detoured to Herat from instead of going to Merv. But like that wasn't like a disappointment. That was just a disappointment in like how the game went. It wasn't like a disappointment with the game itself. I really wasn't there was like no instance where I was ever disappointed. Aside from the fact I think the one thing I was slightly disappointed with is I wish that so like when you get to a certain city, you have the ability to like click this plan button to like see where you might want to go to next. And one thing I was slightly disappointed with is that for me, I'm very geographically challenged in some of these countries I had never heard of. So one thing that would have been really nice is when you click plan to like see like the world and stuff. I wish that there was like a search option so that you could like look up where each country was instead of like having to search for it because a lot of the time that was like a lot of work. So I ended up just like googling like where this country was because because again there were like things that you could buy that were valuable in certain countries, so then I would want to go to those countries. And there was like one thing I bought that was valuable in a country I had never heard of, and then I found out that country was in Africa, and Africa I didn't even touch throughout this journey because I mostly traveled through like Russia and stuff and then like down to like India. So I didn't end up touching Africa. That's just how my route ended up being. And so I was kind of disappointed that I hadn't realized that. So I just wish that there was a search option. But aside from that, I really enjoyed everything else. I mean, it would have been cool if there were like more graphics. But I think that the simplicity of it was really great because it made the game run a lot smoother and it wasn't very laggy at all. Like there was like maybe one gaming journal I experienced some lag with, but aside from that, it ran really smoothly. And I think that like having um the very descriptive like wording and just text really just helped to be able to visualize everything in your own head, just like a choose your own adventure book. So no real disappointments there. Some of my favorite moments, uh, I don't know. There are a lot of there. Well, some of my most recent favorite moments, because there were a lot of things that happened, so I can't really remember everything. But one of my favorite moments was, there was like this little Irish girl who's like 10 that tried to like pickpocket me, and I cussed, and then I taught her that cuss word, and then she was like, "Cool," and then she like left me alone and didn't actually steal my money in the end. So that was kind of funny. Uh, and I was like, just use that word sparingly, like don't use that, like be cautious with that word. And she was like, sure, bestie. She was like, sure, very mischievously, and so that was really funny. And then another moment that I thought was really that I really enjoyed was the little bit of time I spent in New Orleans. I ended up having a little bit of a romance with this guy named, it was like Octave, I think. He's very, very charismatic, very flirtatious. So that was kind of fun. Um, Very romantic. So I liked that. That was fun. What were my other favorite moments? I don't know. There were just like so many interesting things that happened. I think I'm trying to remember what my favorite moments were, but those were just some of them. So then, as for like the technicality, like the technical properties of this game, so mechanics, very simple, which is one of the aspects I absolutely loved about this game, because I struggle a lot with game mechanics. I am not a gamer, so it's really hard for me to like pick up on how things work, and I get really frustrated if I don't understand it right off the bat, which was one of the problems I had with What Remains of Edith Finch, is I didn't understand like how to solve certain like puzzles and like progress throughout the game. This was so easy because literally all you had to do to progress through the game was, one, choose dialogue you wanted to choose every so often to progress conversations, and then two, decide which countries you wanted to travel to next, and then determine, and then just like click embark when the mode of transportation was available for you to embark on. So yeah, that's pretty much all you really need to know how to do. Like there were other things that went into it, like being able to budget wisely and being able to like make good trades to like keep your funds up so that you could travel like to these various locations. So like there were definitely some more strategic aspects of the game that would help if you were good at it. And I think I did a pretty okay job like managing funds and like making decent trades, while still having a semi-direct path back home. So then the artwork itself was okay. I mean, it would have been nice if it was more detailed, but again, I didn't really have many complaints about it because the point of the game wasn't really the artwork, but rather like uh visualizing the storyline yourself through reading what was happening. Because the artwork itself was just very simplistic. Like you see profiles of people's faces when you have like conversations, and there's just not really much detail to it. Like you don't really even have like eyes. Like you kind of have like little eye sockets, but like, and like they're shaded in to like show that that's where your eyes would be, but you don't like physically have any like eyeballs in the artwork. So yeah, just super simplistic. Some of the artwork was really cool though. Like when you get to certain countries, it'll show like little like panels of like it'll maybe show like uh some scenery of that city, and I thought that was really beautiful to kind of like at least give you some idea of like what this place would look like. Also, when you were on certain modes of transportation, it would show little like images of what the transportation looked like. One of my favorite ones was, I think it was it started with an A. It was this city that the Taj Mahal is located in India. I forget the name of it, and I apologize. But when you depart from that city to a different one, that first since this is like a steampunk rendition of 80 Days, you like it's like a moving city, so like so it's like the Taj Mahal is literally on like these mechanical like metal legs, and it like moves you to the next location, which I thought was so cool. The artwork for it was really beautiful too. It was very detailed. So like they did put some detailed artwork in the game itself, just not for the characters, which is fine because like the characters, I mean, I think it's like good to have the visuals for the actual places rather than the characters, because a lot of the times like the characters are just people in passing that you won't see again, or it can be left up to your own imagination. And so really just like I just found the whole concept of this being really like a choose your own adventure thing just very, very intriguing. And so like to put this in the terms of a more like cultural sense though, I think that it was just really this game I feel like was a good way to put certain like I feel like it was a fun game to play that also gave you a brief sense of like certain like historical events, because it does like have a lot of historic references to certain events, such as you have like some people being a little bit more hostile towards your character Passepartout, because he's French, and I am assuming that's because of the Napoleonic Wars that had happened a few decades prior to when this whole game is taking place, which I thought was really cool that they like included details like that. Then you also have the talk around opium when you're in the Asian countries, because it's like British occupation, like the opium trade is like really big around then. You also had British occupation of India. And then they talked about the Transcontinental Railroad being built in America, and how this has like been a decade, I think, around a decade since the Civil War ended. So like they talk about that, and they do talk about slavery here and there, and like the aftermath, like slightly. So I just thought that this was just a really cool game to have. If like Granted, it doesn't like spell out the historical events to you, so you kind of have to have like some brief knowledge on it to get certain references. But like overall, I just thought it was really cool to have like that aspect of the game. Though again, I think that uh with though I think that one part I would say I was still a little disappointed in is for my metagame, I made it so that you could change your character's avatar for 80 days. And I still think that I still do wish that that was an aspect of the game, because I do think that it kind of this game sort of still perpetuates, like I get that it's based on the book like Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne, but I still think that being forced to play like a male character, and like your employer being male, which I guess would still stick even if you couldn't choose your like character. I think it still kind of perpetuates like, men being really like the main people that can like go on these these adventures rather than women. Though the game does like try and break the mold a little bit, but because you do run into like female captains and female travelers, so like it is trying to break some of those like stereotypes. But I still think that there could be a little bit more work, especially with you having to play a male character that's going on an adventure. But they do try to like break those stereotypes, which I did appreciate, because it was cool seeing some like really like some really like cool women travelers and captains and leaders. Like there was actually even there was like one boat we were on. It might have been to Japan, and it was and it and the captain of that ship, I think they like talked about her story, and it ended up she was the one that inspired the folktale Mulan, which I thought was super cool. So yeah, there's just cool things like that. But overall, really enjoyed this game. 10 out of 10. Absolutely loved it. That's why this is so long, because I keep gushing about it. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for my journey. And I will definitely continue playing this game and hopefully manage to travel the world in 80 days entirely, because I got to 86 days. Because I finished the game at 86 days. It's only 6 days over the deadline. So I'm gonna definitely try and play this game on my own time. But yeah, thank you so much. Bye.